record also against the Western Conference. Let's look at the Western Conference here against the Celtics, against the top 4 teams in the Western Conference. The Celtics are 2-5. Have it here against Minnesota. We're 1-1. I want to start with them first. Had an OT loss in Minnesota early in the season where it was just nip and tuck, and Anthony Edwards stepped up in that game. And then we had a 127-120 win over Minnesota where Jason Tatum scored 45 and Jaylen Brown scored 35. Like, if that's the nip and tuck battle that we're going to have, we have 2 guys that can finish at the end of games with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. KP staying stretching the floor. I'm not concerned about Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's go to the Los Angeles Clippers. We had a 145-108 win without Kristaps Porzingis on December 23rd, and then turned around and had a stinker in Los Angeles. I believe it was right a couple weeks before the All-Star game, 115-96 loss in that regard, where they just stomped us out and just kicked our ass, and probably one of the worst games from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in that regard. Facing OKC, had a 127-123 loss where we're down 12 in the fourth quarter, and tried to storm back and win in just a couple plays down the stretch. Josh Giddey was shooting the lights out in that game, but that is a team that kind of mirrors the Boston Celtics, right? Steady guys that can get scoring in terms of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's an MVP candidate. Jalen Williams played really good. Chet Holmgren obviously being in the running for Rookie of the Year, and had guys Isaiah Joe off the bench shooting the ball really well. So they can knock down some threes and kind of mirror the Celtics in terms of stretching the floor and getting opportunities. So looking at that, we do play them following up in the season. And now the Denver Nuggets, who we have lost twice to. The Denver Nuggets snapped our 20-game home win streak back on January 19th, which was a big game anticipation because that's kind of like a finals field matchup. We lost that game by 2 points, came down really close. And then last week, which set all the alarms off for everybody because the Denver Nuggets beat us 115-109 on March 7th. And people have just been trying to stick a knife in the Boston Celtics and being skeptical. And I'm just like, you can't continue to be skeptical with the Boston Celtics in that regard, because at the end of the day, if the Celtics are going to win an NBA championship, it's probably going to have to go through one of these teams. I don't believe in Phoenix. The Pelicans are too young. Dallas is not ready. LA's done. Golden State's done. I just don't think those teams have it. So looking at these 4 teams contenders in the West, if the Boston Celtics are going to get to the NBA Finals, they have to face these teams. Now, especially with Denver, I'm going to go with Denver coming out the Western Conference because of Joker and Jamal Murray and just the unity that they have on the offensive end, the consistency, the chemistry on that end, the ability to get stops, and Joker just being a dynamo, a central hub for that team. Looking at the Denver Nuggets, in those combined games, we lost by 8. And yes, those are small margins of error. Yes, we have to clean up some things. Yes, we have to be more efficient down the stretch. But why not? Why doesn't anybody believe we have a chance against them? There's so much skepticism, especially with Denver. Obviously, Nikola Jokic, obviously MVP runner, candidate, probably top 2 at this point. Best player in the world, if you want to say that, between him, Giannis, SGA, Tatum, Luka. There's a bunch of guys that you could throw in there, but he's the guy that has the mantle right now, right? But in those combined games, we lost by 8. Those are small margins of error, small margins of wins for the Denver Nuggets because they're just able to be a little bit more efficient down the stretch. And if the Boston Celtics are going to grow and reach that next step, they're going to have to learn those things, right? And getting better shots down the stretch, tightening up on the defensive end, stopping those things that they know they need to stop, a little bit more effort in those regards. But to just flat out act like the Boston Celtics do not have a chance in those type of situations, in those type of games, why are you watching them? Like, I just don't understand it from that standpoint when we look at the Western Conference. If we look at the Western Conference, we have a chance to beat any team on any given night. And any given team and those type of teams that are contenders can beat us. And that's fine. But people are acting like we don't stand a chance against the Denver Nuggets, that we're going to have issues with OKC, that we're going to have issues with Minnesota, that we don't know what form or version of the Clippers that we're going to get if they make it that far. People are consistently saying how they just don't trust us. And it's just like, what else do the Boston Celtics have to do in terms of getting that nod and saying, hey, we got a good chance. We're right there. It seems like everybody's kind of out on the Boston Celtics. Yeah, we beat the Suns and stuff like that. And people are just finding ways to nitpick at the Boston Celtics. And I'm just like, yo, the only thing that can be done for the Boston Celtics, I'll talk about it again, is that they just have to win the championship, right? Because that's the only way that you shut up all the noise, shut up all the clutter, and all the skepticism about that. And people are still going to be skeptic about it because they're looking at the Eastern Conference. Let's look at the Eastern Conference.